Sand. It's being smuggled on a global scale.
There are many billions of dollars worth of sand being dug up and sold illegally every year.
It's cheap and easy to extract.
It is a low-risk, high-reward business.
Sometimes involving criminal gangs, violence, even murder.
My complaints were not taken seriously until I got attacked by the sand mafia.
So why is sand in such high demand? The modern world is made of it. Sand is in concrete, asphalt, glass and silicon. It even turns up in places you wouldn't expect.
We use sand in cosmetics, in certain kinds of wine. We use sand in paint. We use sand to make elastics.
Around 50 billion tons of sand and gravel are used every year. That's enough to cover the whole of Argentina in a layer 1 centimetre thick. 90% of all the sand mined goes into the construction industry. China and India are the biggest consumers.
All over the developing world, hundreds of millions of people are moving from the countryside into cities every year. So worldwide, we are building the equivalent of 9 New York cities every single year.
And not all of the world's sand can be used for construction. Desert sands, eroded by wind, are round. The best sand for concrete has jagged edges and comes from rivers. This shape helps it bind together, making it strong and durable. Sand is taken from riverbeds by hand or by dredgers, and more is being extracted than can naturally be replenished.
Sand, which is the second most extracted material in the world after water, is in short supply.
Globally, the sand market is worth around $165 billion, but it's nearly impossible to know how much of that has been sourced illegally.
The estimates range anywhere, up into the tens of billions of dollars. We know for sure that there's illegal sand mining in dozens and dozens of countries. It happens in Western Europe and North America on a relatively small scale, and it happens in the developing world on like a millions of ton scale.
Researchers estimate that in these countries, more than 50% of sand mining is illegal. But no organisation tracks sand, so there isn't international data. In the Gambia, a one-off Interpol operation targeting illegal activity found unprecedented levels of illicit sand mining.
This is all dredged sand from the seaside, huge mountains of sand.
Illegal mining means sand is removed without proper authorization or from prohibited areas. And once it's mixed with legal sand, it's almost impossible to tell the difference.
It can be transported to a construction site and no one knows where it came from and nobody asks questions. It can be moved on a container ship and nobody knows where the source of it is.
Ease of extraction, high demand for concrete, and the fact that sand is legal to buy and sell mean that illegal mining continues with little opposition.
Sand is a free commodity. Anybody who is strong enough, powerful enough can go and collect sand.
And it's often at the local level where exploitation starts and where so-called sand mafias operate.
It can be either a small villager who's taking sand from the beach to build his own house, right up to the point where people who have taken sand and realized how lucrative it is have risen and formed networks and gangs.
This is usually possible through bribery or intimidation.
There is just major corruption of local and regional governments in sand mining because there's very little capacity to enforce prohibitions.
Criminal activity, including sand mafias, are making headlines as illegal mining turns violent.
Hundreds of people have been murdered over sand just in the last few years. And that's been, there's documented cases of this happening in Mexico, in Ghana, in Indonesia, in many, many countries around the world, and especially in India.
I was attacked in 2004 by sand miners, and that's when it became more serious and more intense for me.
Since then, Sumaira has been campaigning against illegal sand mining and highlighting the effect it's having in India and around the world.
Well, if your houses are washed away, it impacts you immediately. Even without a catastrophe like a flood, you can see the effects because you can see the erosion on a daily basis.
Overmining of rivers and beaches means there's a greater risk of landslides and flooding, while dredging has significant consequences for fragile ecosystems.
When you do that, when you suck up the bottom of a river, obviously whatever was living down there, whatever kind of fish and plant life were living on that riverbed, you've just annihilated their habitat, wiped it out.
New technologies could help. More concrete than ever is being recycled, and sand can be created artificially by crushing rocks. But manufacturing is expensive, and both are energy intensive. And as long as extracting sand remains cheap and plentiful, cracking down on sand smuggling won't be easy.
You need to have communities much more involved in monitoring illegal sand mining. You've got to be addressing the corruption. You need to raise awareness. And because nobody is paying adequate attention to it, it goes on and the devastation continues.